Real life military. Today's video, we will be going over the U.S. federal budget. We have just had something happen that's never happened before. The U.S. interest payments on debt are set to exceed defense spending, and they just did. That should be very worrying. So, our federal budget, we have defense, healthcare, education, Social Security, infrastructure, and then government programs. So, Americans are familiar with the impact of high interest rates, which make things more expensive. Credit cards, houses, food, everything that you need to get by. But now the federal government is now getting destroyed in interest. So now we are paying other countries more interest right now than we are on defending our own country. Federal spending on interest has hit 870 billion this year, exceeding last year's 822 billion. So the national budget always has gone up and it always will go up, but it's just getting ridiculous. According to recent analysis by the Congressional Budget Office, this year's outlay interest payments represent a 32% increase from last year's. So, to be sure, higher interest rates aren't the only raising cost. Over the last decade, the U.S. has almost doubled its outstanding debt. So how are we getting all these interest rates? So it happens from, like, one of the big things was Donald Trump in 2017. He cut taxes, which actually made it jump a little bit. And then also with 2020, the pandemic, with us giving all those stimmy checks out. So, like, I was personally against it, and a lot of people were, because they knew that it was going to hurt us in the long run. So I'm very happy that I invested all of my money. I didn't spend it on ridiculous shit, and hopefully you did as well, because the U.S. will be paying for it in the future. Our kids will be paying for it, and so will our grandkids. So what problems will arise? The mounting debt and interest payments could eventually squeeze the federal spending, making it harder for core programs like Social Security and other initiatives driving economic growth, such as infrastructure and education. So this has already been put out by like 2050, 2060, you will no longer get like Social Security. And this can happen with other things. Like healthcare is already something that people don't pay for anymore, or that we pay for right now. So Social Security is not something that you should be banking on in the future, for sure, because it's definitely going to be gone. Like, people are not working enough, and the number one rising population in the US is people over 80. So we are having less kids and people are living longer. So that means the older demographic in the US is ballooning up. Like, those baby boomers are going to take all the Social Security, and they're living longer, so it needs to be extended longer. That's why they keep on pushing out the year you can get it, and it's going to keep on happening over and over and over. And one big thing that is on everyone's mind is, are we in a recession? Like, is a recession going to hit? So there is a very nifty tool called the FRED, the Federal Reserve Economic Data. It's an extensive database maintained by the Federal Reserve Bank. It provides access to a wide range of data, including macro and micro indicators, interest rates, federal market data, and regional economic data for the U.S. So this right here basically shows us, since right here 1980, when a recession is going to happen. So if you see this mountain line right here, once it drops below 0% right here, about 6 months to a year later, it could be 2 years, we hit a recession. So here's one in 1990 to 91, and here's one from 2001 Yeah, so 2001 a year. It lasted 1 point, so almost 2 years. And then this one in 2008 to 2009, which was 2.5 years. And then this little one that we all lived through right here, which was the scamdemic right here, which lasted 4 months. So, um, and look, it barely hit right here. So this one was huge. I don't even know what this one was. This one barely hit. This one was a little big, and then this one right here. But look where we're at right now. Look how deep we are right here. We are at the core. We were like 1 point below that, which is wild. So that means that a recession is going to happen unless history isn't going to repeat itself, which it always does. So what happened in all of these? For the most recent one, right? Or these two I'll talk about. I'm not sure about this one right here. I got to look into this one. But I know this one right here, this big jump right or drop right here, this right here was the dot com bubble. So it started forming in 1995 and reached its peak in 2000. So this is when the internet came out and everyone was getting their dot coms, their Google, Yahoo, all that stuff. There was tons of them, kind of like crypto or EVs that we went through. Like everyone had an EV, like um like what like Lucid. Lucid was huge. All these other companies, like a bunch of them were scams. This is what happened right here in 1995. This was everyone coming out with a dot com, and it just started dropping, plummeting, and then went down, and then boom, recession happened. The next one right here, this one right here, was the housing crisis. So what happened right here was we were giving loans out to everyone. Anyone that needed a loan, they could get a loan. Like my parents were in that. They didn't deserve a loan, but guess what? They got a loan. Everyone got a loan, right? But um, the housing crisis, like everyone thinks we're in a housing crisis right now. We have the exact opposite. What's going on back in the 2000s? In the 2000s, there were there was everyone had all these loans out, so they were just building houses like crazy, and there were way too many houses and not enough people to go into these houses. Right now, we have too many people and not enough houses, so it's a little different. That's why everyone's like, "Oh, the housing prices are going to crash." It's like there's not enough houses for it, so that's a big difference. And then this one right here we already talked about was COVID. But as you see, after or during the the recession, so everything is already baked into the cake. So really right now we are living in a recession and we just don't even know it. But then once it happens, it'll already bounce back. I know it's kind of confusing. That's how like before it's super low and then everything starts skyrocketing because this is the recession that we're already living in. And then boom, we come out of it strong. Happens over and over and over and over. Okay. So what happens during a recession? You have high unemployment. Some of these things are going to ring a bell, right? So a decline in customer spending, like what's going on right now, like loss of jobs, economic uncertainty, stock markets down, reduce in business investments. Like no one's like all the small businesses are going out. Financial stress. Everyone has financial stress right now. Things are super tight. Government intervention is another big one. So, and in the current administration that we have, like government intervention is huge. Like right now, if you don't know, the Supreme Court has told our president that he cannot defer loans out anymore, and he's still doing it anyways. That's one example of government intervention. Next is impact of financial markets. Yeah, stock market is down, bonds are down. Um, that's why all these banks were going out of business because the bonds came down so low, and people weren't making money on them, so they started to sell them, and the bank didn't have enough money to pay those people out, so they went bankrupt. And that's why a lot of people don't know or realize that most of your banks now are owned by one of the big ones, and it happens slowly, kind of low key, and now everyone's just like that's just the way it is. And the housing market effect, where significantly, like it's like decrease homes. That's how we know it now. Will it happen? We'll see. Hopefully, I wouldn't mind buying another house. And the psychological impacts. So those right there are that's what happens during a recession, and those things are happening right now. Like we are living in a recession, and it's gonna get wild. It already is wild, but that's kind of huge news that our interest is outpacing our our defense budget right now, and that interest isn't going away. It's going to keep on going up. So what do they have to do? We have to start cutting and taxing more. So way more taxing. The taxes are coming, and the taxes are already ridiculous. Like we get taxed on everything from everywhere, and they're going to start taking things away, making things cheaper, and education's going to go down. Healthcare is already horrible. Education's already horrible. Defense, they've already cut to the core, and next are the government programs and infrastructure. You got bridges collapsing, all kinds of other stuff. Like things are wild, and if you aren't ready, then it's going to be have nots and have yachts. Later.